Christianity is so toxic. It's so toxic. In fact, as a Christian, you can't be honest. You can't be open. Hi, my name's Timmy Gibson, former fundamental evangelical tongue talking Holy Ghost rolling pastor. Spent 30 years as a pastor, 48 years as a Christian, deconstructed about 7 years ago. I would now call myself an atheist. I often say I'm agnostic, atheist as it relates to the Bible God. Yeah, I want to talk about this whole idea of the hiding and the lying and the deception, and even really when Christians become so judgmental, the hypocrisy, which is typically what Christians get accused of. In fact, I mean, I heard this a lot when I was a Christian. Christians are so hypocritical. They're so hypocritical. They're so judgmental, right? I remember when I was a Christian pastor, and there was this guy in the church. He was having an affair on his wife, and yet he almost in the same sentence was saying that homosexuality was an abomination. I was like, what? What are you saying right now? Goodness gracious. So the culture within Christianity, specifically again, I come from the evangelical charismatic Pentecostal type circles. So, that's my only experience. And in my experience, okay, now I don't know everybody. I've not met every Christian on the planet. So I hesitate to say all. So I don't like when people say all, everywhere, all the time, all that kind of stuff. Most, a high number, 90+% of Christians are hiding something. Now, maybe they're not hiding from everybody, but I mean, just look at the news. I mean, just come on, look at the scandals. I've done videos on scandals. I mean, it's rampant. But for every scandal that you've seen and you hear about, there are countless more scandals that you haven't heard about and you won't ever hear about because either the pastor or the Christian hasn't got caught, or it's a Christian with no influence. So, quasi no one really cares. No one really even knows they're a Christian except for all of their friends at church. Most all Christians are hiding and lying. And it's prolific. It's just prolific. And it's not that that makes them bad. I mean, how can I word this? Some of the things that they're hiding and lying about, they shouldn't have to hide and lie about, right? That's where the toxic piece comes in. The young couple that's supposed to be, they're engaged and they're supposed to be waiting to have sex until they're married. And so what do? Well, you can't tell anybody you live together or that you're sleeping together. Okay, can I just tell you a little funny side story? So, as you know, I'm in the wedding business, and so I do a lot of weddings. And I had a couple come to me, and they said, "Hey, we'd love to have you do our wedding. Our other wedding officiant canceled on us, and we'd like to have you do it." I'm like, "Okay, cool." And I said, "I'm curious, why'd they cancel?" And they said, "He found out we lived together." So, what's so wild about that? I find that in my mind just cuckoo. Like I find that just so cuckoo. Like one, why would that be the officiant's business if a couple's living together or not, or what they're doing or not doing? Like, how is that any of the officiant's business at all? That's creepy, culty, odd, weird. Like, what year are we living in? Hello. Anyway, uh, and so yeah, I did the wedding. It was beautiful. It was great. This couple, they were so hurt by this because it wasn't a matter of are you engaging in sexual activity. It was just you live together. So I guess there was an assumption made there that clearly if they're living together, they're touching TTs and they shouldn't, right? I can laugh about this stuff now, but when I think back to those days, that is just wild. The number of people. Okay, so the Bible college I went to, Central Bible College, the one that I've told you about in Springfield, Missouri, the one I was kicked out of for drinking a wine cooler, that Bible college. I, every couple I knew. Okay, now I didn't know every couple. It was a fairly big school at that time, maybe 1,500 students. I knew a lot of them though. I was, a part of the social life of the school. Every couple that I knew that wasn't married, they were touching TTs. they were doing the nasty, as they say. They were doing the thing. But they had to lie and hide, because if they did get found out, they, like myself, would have been kicked out of the Bible college. When I was called into the office and they asked me if I drank a wine cooler, I said, yes, I did. And that was it. Then they kicked me out. That literally was the discussion. So you're forced to lie. There was a form. I was a part of the Assemblies of God back then. And there was, I think it's the 16 fundamental truths. There's a 17 and 16. I think it's 16 fundamental truths that you had to sign off on believing, as well as things like not smoking, not drinking. There were certain things, not engaging in premarital sex. Like, there were things on this list that you had to every year say yes or no, and then explain yourself. And it was known that if you do check the box, I smoke, I think that one they may have been slightly lenient on. But if you drank, you can't be in the Assemblies of God if you drink. Clearly, that's going to make people lie. Like, right? Because many of the guys I knew, we were all smoking cigars, which is smoking technically, right? And so you just lied about it. This is literally all coming to my mind. The Central Bible College that I went to, this Bible college, that was a joke. They didn't allow you to go to the movie theater. You're thinking, how old are you, Timmy? I'm 56 this year, in a few weeks. So, yes, the Bible college I went to, you were not allowed to go to the movie theater because that was sinful. You're not allowed to go to the movie theater. You'd say, Timmy, you can go to the movie theater, just couldn't be a rated R movie. No, you could not go to the movie theater. Okay? Yeah. I remember this too also. Women couldn't wear bikinis. They had to wear a one-piece bathing suit with a dark t-shirt over it. Anyway, so back to this thing you had to fill out. So every year as a minister, this was true of the second Bible college I went to, you had to affirm that I've not done anything immoral like smoking, and that it had a list of things that you could not do or you would be booted. Okay, and I've mentioned this in another video, but I knew the grandson of the founder of the Bible college that I went to. Okay, I know the grandson. He was smoking, drinking, and doing stuff while a teacher, actually he was a student, but then he became on staff because it was a family event, right? It was a family-run ministry, so all the family were paid and on staff. Anyway, this guy, I knew him personally. He was gambling, he was drinking, he was doing other stuff while at this Bible college that was founded by his grandfather, which wasn't any different than what anyone else was doing. But that environment forces you to lie. I remember, and I mean, I'm ashamed to admit this, but I got that form. I was with this ministry for years and years and years. I got that form every year. Have you smoked it all this year? Nope. Have you drank it all this year? Nope. Have you done anything else? Nope. Have you looked at porn? Nope. Have you? You had to lie. You absolutely, in Christianity, which is extremely toxic, it's a cult, it's extremely toxic, you're forced to lie. And I knew everybody I knew, and I knew a lot of people there who were ministers, evangelists, and teachers, and preachers, and pastors. I knew so many of them. They, it was a thing that we all talked about. We all lied. We lied every time we got that form because we didn't want to get kicked out or reprimanded or have to talk to someone about why did you drink. Yeah, it's just toxic. And the main reason that it's so toxic, it's not because smoking or drinking or doing any of those things, having premarital sex, none of those things are immoral. Okay. Now they might not be good for your health. It might not be good for whatever. Like there could be, there could be some debate there on whether you should or shouldn't. That's open for debate. But to call it immoral is just idiotic. It's just moronic. It's just wrong. You're right. There's nothing, absolutely nothing immoral about two consenting adults, whether it's male, male, female, female, male and female, like whatever. There's nothing immoral about that. If you're two consenting adults of age, it's not immoral. Okay. Again, this isn't about should and shouldn't. This is just about whether it's immoral or not. So everyone who had to fill out this form. Now, I'm sure there was some little goody two-shoe person that literally wasn't drinking, smoking, having premarital sex, not masturbating. That was on the questionnaire. If you're single, do you masturbate? You're like, Timmy, are you kidding? I am not kidding. It's nuts. So you're forced to lie. And I know, again, I've said this before. I know right now some evangelical, fundamental, Bible thumping, Christians right now who are personal friends of mine. I know them. And they're having to hide and lie, and they can't be open and honest. Why? Fear of judgment. Fear of judgment. I mean, just like even the wedding couple, the couple that I did the wedding for, they're honest people. And so when the officiant asked them if they lived together, they said, well, yeah. They're like, oh, we're not going to hide. I mean, it's the truth. And that's what you don't see. And if you do, very rarely, if ever, do you see that in the evangelical circles. You see it even with pastors. I was just watching not too long ago the story about the pastor, which I've referenced before, the Ted Haggart pastor in Colorado Springs, when that journalist, caught him in his truck as he was leaving his house with his wife, and they put the microphone up to him and they said, did you get massages from this gay masseuse, and did you do meth? And he was like, absolutely not. I did not do. He had to lie. I'm not saying it's right to. I'm just saying in the Christian world, you are forced to hide and lie and cover up. You can't be honest. And that is what is one of the main reasons it's so unhealthy, so toxic, and so traumatic. It's like, I mean, because we all would say lying is wrong for the most part, right? Unless your, partner says, do you like my new haircut? The answer is, yeah, I do, right? Outside of those kinds of lies, or, you're harboring, you got children in the house and someone's coming to kidnap the children and they say, are they there? And you say, no. Like outside of that kind of lying, right? We would all probably agree. It's wrong to lie in most circumstances. Okay. We should protect people. Okay. But in the Christian circles, you are forced to lie. And I think here's what I think It's because it's not safe to be honest. And this is especially true with all my gay friends when I was in Bible college, and those that I knew that were gay. They for sure couldn't be honest because they would be kicked out of the Bible college. In fact, they had to, when they filled out the form, they couldn't even say that they were homosexual. They had to be like, no, I'm heterosexual. They you're forcing people to lie and to be dishonest, which creates trauma and dysfunction in your body. So, one of the things that I say often, I did a whole video about it. When I say, I'm a better person now as an atheist, I'm more honest, I'm more moral. That's part of it. Is I don't have to hide. I don't have to. There's nothing for me to hide. Now, there were some comments underneath that video that I thought were pretty enlightening from, I think, as someone who was a psychologist. There's also that allure around, don't touch this. Well, then what do you want to do? I want to touch that. Right? So there is that piece to it. But also, you're forced to be dishonest. And that causes trauma in your mind and in your emotions. Because here you are, supposedly a Christian who's supposed to be honest, right? You're supposed to be honest. So here you are trying to live right, trying not to masturbate because you want to be a good follower of Jesus, because that's what they don't do. They don't masturbate. People that really love Jesus don't masturbate. They all do. So, you don't do that, or you try not to, but then when you inevitably do that, and then you're supposed to, you have to, because you don't want to get busted for that and get kicked out of the college or get reprimanded or get made fun of or all the things that happen. Well, now you're forced to lie. Did you touch yourself? No, I did not. Because you can't say, yeah, I did. And they go, all right, cool. That's a natural biological thing. People do that since the eons of time. It's what people do. Right. But you're forced to lie. You're forced into dishonesty. So, why Christians get labeled as hypocritical? Well, because we all know Christians. We all know Christians who believe it's immoral to be having premarital sex, yet they're having premarital sex. Christians that think it's wrong to lie, and if you ask them about having premarital sex, they have to lie, right? Which is what? Hypocritical. I'm a Christian, which when you think of Christianity, typically what you would think of, and I know that my atheist friends would be like, well, when I think of a Christian, I think of all the bad things, right? But when you think of a Christian, like some people, like especially Christians, are like, I want to do business with Christians because they're honest and they're, all these stupid things. Well, we all know that's not true. Like, just look around, just watch the news. I mean, pastors, I read an article the other day about a pastor who was also a pimp. Guys, you think I'm making this stuff up? I can't make this stuff up. I would have never thought of that. Yeah, a pastor by day and a pimp by night. It's a pastor pushing pills. I mean, you say, no, guys, like, just Google it. It's unbelievable. Just unbelievable. I mean, I could curl your toes with stories of things that I encountered firsthand, things I know personally. I mean, stuff that I don't even want to talk about here because it's just so terrible. Just terrible. And especially just recently, the Robert Morris, just Google that pastor, Robert Morris. Just Google that mofo's name. I've met that guy. I've been to a conference. I've been to his church. Well, where he used to pastor. And some shenanigans came out. Like, with some really bad stuff. Well, Christianity forces you to lie, to hide, to be dishonest, which is going to F up your soul. And when I say soul, I'm not talking like a Christian soul, but you know what I mean? It just messes you up. And it's why so many Christians hide and lie and hide and lie and deal with all the different. I mean, think about it. I know that depression can be a chemical thing, and I'm not saying that it's not. I mean, you go see a doctor. I'm not a doctor, but honestly, there's a good friend of mine who's a psychologist, and he says, Timmy, some of the most messed up, emotional, messed up people that he's ever met are fundamental evangelical Christians. He said they're so tormented because they know they're lying. They know that when they're checking that box, say, no, I've not smoked, and yet they have, or no, I'm not having premarital sex, yet they are. They know that. So there's a contradiction there, right? There's a contradiction between what they should be doing and what they're striving to do, and then what they're actually doing. And in that gap of, I'm supposed to be celibate until I'm married, but that's not what's going on in their everyday life. In that area lives just torment. That's why so many Christians are just tormented and not happy and just have miserable lives. Yet they claim to have Jesus, and Jesus gives us a peace that passes understanding, and God, all this stuff. And you look at their lives and you're like, your life sucks. You can't be honest. You lie. You're hiding. You what is going on, right? And again, I'm telling you this from first-hand experience. I went through that. In my own Christian journey. I always felt I was always in turmoil, especially, I've said this in other videos, but especially when I was a teenager and started coming into the, all the hormone, all the testosterone was coursing through my body. I mean, all I wanted to do was touch TTs. You know what I'm saying? That's all I wanted to do. But there was this battle going on in my mind, right? Because I'm like, Jesus doesn't want me to do this. Then why do I want to do it so bad? Jesus wants you to live right. But I want to do her. But Jesus wants you to do. But I want to touch this. But don't. I mean, it's just this constant war. And frankly, I remember telling some of my friends this. I said, man, I am tormented. Like everything in my body wants to do certain things that aren't immoral, yet I'm being taught that it is immoral, and I'm feeling like a bad person. I really did. I felt like I'm a terrible Christian. That's what I thought. I thought, man, I am terrible. I am fighting I'm fighting the good fight of faith. That's what, I would tell myself, take into captivity every thought that tries to, I was always in this war between what I thought God wanted. There is no God. But what I thought this biblical God wanted, and yet just everything else that I wanted to, you know what I mean? So right this minute, I have several friends who are just tormented. I mean, tormented day in and day out, and just struggling and living with anxiety and depression, and they're just riddled with it all because they think this God that they love doesn't want them to do all the stuff, and they also kind of don't want to do it, but yet they do it. It's absolute, honestly, it's just insanity. That's why I love what Richard Dawkins says, the God delusion. It is a delusion. It's setting you up for failure. It's setting you up to lie, to deceive, to not be honest, to cover up. I mean, think about it. That's probably one of the biggest things that people got so upset about all the stuff that went on in the Catholic Church. I mean, the things that went on were horrendous. But what made it even worse was the covering up. It was the moving people around. It was the lying. It was all the deception. It's like, come on, aren't you a Christian? Aren't you supposed to be honest? You know what I'm saying? Like, no, absolutely you can't. Not at all. My dog is whining. Come here. I should show her to you, but I can't get up off the screen and do that because I don't edit, as you all know. Hey, so cuss and discuss down below. What do you think? What do you think of the dangers and the harms of not being able to be honest in the Christian faith and just all that stuff? What do you think? Cuss and discuss down below. Like, subscribe, share the video. It really helps out. We're almost at 10,000. We may be at 10,000 by the time this video comes out. Actually, we probably will be at 10,000 by the time this video comes out. Also, I have a Facebook group. You're welcome to be in it. It's not for Christians. If you're a Christian, it's not for you. But if you're deconstructing, if you're spiritual, not religious, you can be in there as long as you're not trying to push Jesus on everybody. Atheist or agnostic, you're welcome to be in it. It's called Timmy's Deconstruction Community. All right, guys. Peace.